Welcome to the Only Male Cruz show, the We Own Your Head podcast. Discussing topics that make you say, how and where can we improve as a society? From a Black American's perspective. Copyright disclaimer regarding fair use is in full effect. The views and opinions expressed in this show, you guessed it, they're all mine. Catch this live, be ready to speak. This is a call-in show. Be sure to hit the like button, share, subscribe, replay gang, leave a comment. You know I want to hear from you. Let's go to work. All right. Welcome to the Only Male Cruz show, the We Own Your Head podcast. Okay. So I just figured out something that, what's up, y'all? I just figured out something that we can now get Twitter on iPads. And so I was trying to check to see, how I could make some things work, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. So shout out to Sister Rella. Hey, Rella, if you want me to drop the link, happy to do it. So you can jump up and be on this panel with me while we have this discussion. I'd love for you to do that. You can be cam on, cam off, doesn't matter to me, whatever you're most comfortable with. But today, y'all, we're still in chapter 3. We're still in chapter 3 of Dr. Claud Anderson, PowerNomics. The actual title of the chapter 3 is Building Competitive Communities, but we're going to focus on the section of Elements of Functional Communities. Okay, and it's pretty interesting because in the description I did state that Dr. Claud Anderson has stated that, there's some actual actions that we could take in order to make some improvements and make some changes. So, Sister Rella, you said, hey, do you want me to drop the link? If so, let me know so I can make that happen. All right, so I'm actually just trying to check here to see where we are. I probably should have done a dry run, but it's all good. So, if you can share the show, that'd be great. Hit the like button, subscribe, replay gang, leave a comment. I want to hear from you. Okay, so we are back. PowerNomics, Dr. Claud Anderson, the national plan to empower Black America. We ain't letting that notice down, y'all. We got to get through this, and we got to execute, implement the suggestions and recommendations that are in this book. Dr. Claud says that if our goal is to build functional communities, we can, however, understand the techniques and methods that were used to destroy our sense of community. We can more fully understand what happened if we analyze a similar and better documented mind control experiment that occurred during the Korean War in the 1950s. And I'm going to tell you, I didn't know how to feel. Okay, yes, drop the link. Let me put that link down here for you, Rella. When I read this piece, I didn't really know how to feel because it's really an insult. And I think I alluded to it last week about, the slave masters had like a third grade education. Okay. And the folks that were doing the brainwashing in the Korean War, they had like master's degree level of education. And so with that being said, it's like, damn, we got played 400 years over some ignorant stuff. And hot off the press, breaking news, I just learned about, there's some literature out there that says white people realized that they could not have made it in this country had it not been for Black Americans. Now, the person that shared that information with me, I said, look, I need a source. They sent me the source. And, we'll get into that. Probably won't be on this show, but that statement is out there. So if you want to Google it, feel free to. And then when we talk about it, you got your source as well. But let's get into what Dr. Claud Anderson is talking about the meritorious manumission versus brainwashing. And shout out to Brother Muko, who's not in the space or the YouTube streets at this time, but he brought up meritorious manumission, like I want to say last year when we were doing Claud Anderson's Black Labor, White Wealth. And That was actually very interesting. So here's Claude Anderson now, kind of getting into it and actually showing the difference between that meritorious manumission and brainwashing. But again, both were used uh, to impede one's ability to be successful and live their best life. All right, so both American soldiers held in North Korean prisoner of war camps during the 1950s and enslaved black people were psychologically or socially and psychologically manipulated in parallel ways. The communist North Korean army and its Chinese consorts used brainwashing on American soldiers. Slavery used conditioning. The biggest difference between the two systems was the extreme physical cruelty of slavery. Both systems were designed to tear people apart. In many ways, communist brainwashing was a combination of meritorious manumission, while Willie Lynchism, it was a sophisticated form of re education that operated like group therapy run in reverse. But unlike group therapy intended to bring people together, communist brainwashing and meritorious manumission were designed to drive people apart from one another. Okay, let that sit for a minute. We got Sister Rella on the stage. Um, hey, Sister Rella, thanks for pulling up. Appreciate you so much.
Hey,
Um,
hey,
hey, and so I mean, we got brainwashed and meritorious manumission. I mean, we just and according to what I just read, Dr. Claude Anderson says both were designed to drive people apart from one another, and we as Black Americans are still experiencing that type of dysfunction where coming together is the challenge that we have. Uh, so. And Rolla, of course, feel free to jump in whenever you get good and ready, sis. Um,
yeah, I want to just on that piece right there. I
mhm.
think that goes back to even the discussion that we had earlier.
Yeah,
There are layers, as our good sisters Trigger always dropping trigonomics
so
talks
now,
about how there has been a dismantling and an interruption of I think forces like Dr. Claude Anderson said that are keeping us from moving forward. And it disrupts us, I think, at every generation because it's nothing's new. It's just these forces are attacking our intellect. They're attacking our physical way of even protecting our own selves and moving forward. Dr. Claude Anderson was spot on.
absolutely, absolutely, and but the saving grace is that there are some options, according to Dr. Claude Anderson, that we can exercise in order to still get around it. And again, the biggest point is that this book, copywritten 2001, the goal for accomplishing all of these things, recommendations that Dr. Claude Anderson has mentioned, the objective was to have all that done by 2005. So here we are, of course, almost we are we rolling into 2024, and we have not gotten damn near any of this done. Okay, that's where we are. So let's keep reading. Dr. Claude says the larger purpose of these social conditioning systems was to destroy the ability of the subjects to form natural groups and communities, develop normal relationships, support, protect, and communicate with members of their own group. Now, table two, and let me go to that real quick because I tried to be table two, table two. Here we go. Table two. Um, Let me see here. That's table two continued. Lord have mercy, I missed the table. You know what? It's all good. We're about to get that table. Let me see. Oh, and it's upstairs. So anyway, we'll work with half the table. Okay. Table two offers a brief comparative analysis of the brainwashing of military captives in North Korea and China over a 3-year period and the meritorious manumission policies, Willie Lynchism, imposed on blacks for several centuries. The table compares the similarities between the goals, psychological principles, rewards, punishments, and resultant behavior changes. The results of these two systems were nearly identical in every respect. But In each instance, the subjects identified with their oppressors and were often unwilling to return to their former communities to be with their own people. The brainwashed POWs who survived were hospitalized and deprogrammed. No such therapy has ever been offered to Black Americans. Lord have mercy. And if we look at table two, and let me do this for the camera. Let me do this real quick, y'all. I appreciate y'all patience with me. So I don't know if you can see this, but table two is over here. It's a full table. I forgot to load the first part of it, so what I have available is going to be the second section of it. But don't worry, you ain't gonna miss nothing. So as you see here on the left-hand side of your screen where it says procedure, that is under the meritorious manumission Willie Lynchism time period between 1710 and the 1860s. And then on the right side of that, that is the communist POW brainwashing time period 1950 to 1954. So where we are here at procedure, it says is transported, meaning Black Americans, transported into hostile lands, made a minority, and totally dependent, totally deprived of family, hope, and basic necessities, rewarded for identifying with slave master. Okay, for the POW, which occurred in 1950s, they were transported into North Korea, isolated from support systems, subjected to various forms of deprivation with rewards and punishments divided by military rank. So even that presented itself as an issue. Going further down this table, they talk about the reaction of enslaved Blacks, internalized white values and fear of oppressors, eroded group self-interest, and abandoned code of conduct, displayed self-hate, exhibited difficulty trusting and cooperating with other Blacks. Again, these are issues that we currently have today. And as Dr. Claud Anderson said, said earlier in what I was just reading, no such therapy has ever been offered to Black Americans because the brainwashed POWs had an opportunity to be hospitalized and deprogrammed, whereas Black Americans, we never got that option. And that's why even today we exhibit these same levels of dysfunction, self-hate, difficulty trusting, cooperating with other Blacks. We've got those other inappropriate behavior situations such as, being in an area with too many Blacks is too Black and Blacks don't want to be in that. I mean, it's just so much dysfunction. Then on the other side of the reaction for the POWs, it says acquiesced and colluded with captors, compromised on principles, became individualistic, selfish and withdrawn, abandoned code of conduct, unable to organize and trust, built mental prisons within their own minds. And what's so sad about it is, does some of this, are some of these symptoms synonymous with one another? The success rate for the meritorious manumission Willie Lynchism says after 360 years, 36 million descendants of slaves have the shortest life expectancy, low self-esteem, remain divided and non-competitive. They remain fearful and continue to seek white approval and rewards that come with being sambos and sellouts. For the North Korean POWs, the success rate is only 2,000 of the original 7,000 American POWs survived. Most POW camps had no guards or fences, yet not one American POW escaped in an organized attempt. Survivors remained withdrawn. POWs became turncoats against their own country. The bottom line is that both of these types of mind warping behavior, meritorious manumissions, and brainwashing, produce the desired results by the individuals that were doing it. And in 2024, the dominant society is enjoying the fruits of the meritorious manumissions that Black Americans had to endure way back in the day, because that thing has been so embedded in us that it's what do they call it? Oh man, I can't think of it. I cannot think of the term. However, what I'm getting at is it's within our DNA. And when I think of that term, I would bring it up because it's an official term to it. Sister Rella, I don't know if you've got a comment or a thought or an idea about any of that. Um,
Yeah, I think the post traumatic slave syndrome. I think which
yes.
they shout out to Dr. Joy DeGruy,
Hmm.
who also talks about um, how the impact of harm created this this prison.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And the bottom line is that they did this because according to Table Two, this meritorious manumission Willie Lynchism, that time period is from 1710 to the 1860s. Okay, we're still the lingering effects. Uh, People are still enjoying, the dominant society is still enjoying the benefits of the meritorious manumission Willie Lynchism today, just based on the way it's been described, and the dysfunction that this has created. Shout out to DJ Segwan, Black State of America. Both of you gentlemen are invited to jump on that link. It is in the chat. If you're so inclined to get in on the conversation. Um, so let's move forward and continue on. Brainwashed for life. Okay, simply put, brainwashing was an intensive program of dehumanization, physical degradation, re education, and indoctrination. The North Korean communists, much like Willie Lynch, were not simply interested in controlling the POWs while they were in prison camps. They wanted to create humans who would permanently see the world through the eyes of a captor, even after they were free and integrated back into everyday American society. Both systems were enormously successful. Like black slaves and imprisoned soldiers were captured, transported into hostile country, made a minority in their segregated prison communities, and made totally dependent upon their captors for basic necessities of life. Dependence eventually bloomed into indebtedness. The POWs were grateful to their captors for a few kindnesses, okay, such as an occasional extra food or an apple, a piece of candy, or an extra blanket. These extras from their oppressors were little different from the welfare, food stamps, and public housing subsidies that present day blacks receive. Um, and like the white overclass of today, the Korean Guards reduced or totally eliminated a benefit when displeased with the POW's behavior. The power exercised by the guards and the powerlessness of the POWs themselves constantly reinforced the cycle of despair and suffering. And I want to ask, and I hope somebody can address this question. Hopefully, you, Rella, since you're on the stage. Here's the thing, and we kind of were talking about this earlier today. So we talked about earlier in a prior conversation. I think it was in your space, Rel, about welfare and how drove the man out of the house. When Dr. Claude talks about how the white men took these things away, um, how the dominant society took these things away to express their displeasure. My question is, for the situation going on in Chicago, um, where the migrants are, where there's protests about, hey, we don't want them over here, we don't want them in this neighborhood. Um, had Black Americans responded differently, like, oh yes, bring them in, does anybody think that maybe the response would have been a little bit different? Maybe it wouldn't be so bogartish the way they've just like, we don't care what y'all think, we doing it. Yeah, this is a sanctuary city. It's going down like that. Do we think maybe the way they have gone about giving these migrants everything and the kitchen sink, that the approach would have been different? Bella, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, or even if you're in a position to respond.
I I don't think so. I think that because of the pattern of what did you Dr. Claud Anderson claimed it earlier, where the prisoners of war would actually start to think that if they appease
Mm-hmm.
their captors,
Mm-hmm.
that somehow their captors would show some sort of moral
Yeah.
responsibility to their humanity.
Mm.
And unfortunately, I don't think that to be true
Mm-hmm.
with what's happening in Chicago, because the community is captured, right? It's
Right.
captured because the false premises of um, someone getting elected by the community in hopes that they would go in and make things better for the people who have voted them in,
Right.
was that they, Brandon, excuse me,
Mm.
Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
would be the considerable example of what the captor looks like, even though he shares the same complexion. And
Right.
he also would be responsible for the lack of humanity being addressed, the lack of resources, and i.e., abusing the power that the citizens had given him by giving him their vote, only to come in and actually put a group of people above its citizens, people who don't even have, they can't even vote. And so when you really look at it, unfortunately, Dr. Claud Anderson was right again, because it's the perpetual cycle that we're seeing played in, I think, all across the country, day in and day out. And we're looking for people to recognize our humanity and do
Mm.
right with repairing us, and that is not actually their aim. Their aim is to really get in and, I think, speak another group of people so that they can have the benefit of those bodies doing what they want them to do. And that to me is the sad and sickening part at the same time.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, well said too, Rella. You're right, because yeah, Brandon Johnson, he didn't come in making no promises. He came in like we were already captive, and I guess that's how they moving. I mean, that's really how they're moving in the Shy and Eric Adams up in New York. They're already moving like y'all are captured. We designating this a sanctuary city, whether you like it or not. We're going to take all y'all resources and apply them towards these migrants and immigrants, and we don't care whether you like it or not. And once all those have been exhausted, now we're gonna suggest now that you let people move in with you. But if we can't get y'all to volunteer quick enough, we're gonna mandate that these, So I'm excited to see what that part's gonna be, unless by 20, unless we get a new president, they put them all out. So who knows? Let's keep going with Dr. Claude Anderson. He talks about the Korean brainwashing broke the will of highly trained soldiers so that they had no interest in trying to escape. It destroyed the POW's trust, code of conduct, and sense of connection to their captured comrades. Many chose to become turncoats and remained with their captors after release. Meritorious manumission and Willie Lynchism had nearly the identical effect on black slaves and their descendants. The conditioning broke their will. Only a few thousand of more than 5 million slaves ever attempted an escape. Now, I brought this up last week to somebody. This is shocking. This is shocking. Out of 252 known slave revolts, a black informed nearly every time. Nearly every damn time. Ironically, on the eve of the Civil War, over 6,000 blacks were slaveholders. Many fought with the Confederacy to maintain slavery. Some even elected to stay with the white slave masters after the war was over. The analysis of the brainwashing provides insight into why blacks avoid blackness and lack accountability to members of our team. And this really is a question for another day in another space. But I need to understand why blacks why they had slaves. And you know what? And I'm going to say that for another space on another day. Rel, I'm sure you'll get the answer. Um, and I want to talk about that because I need to understand it. Unless they were tethers, but were we dealing with tethers back then like that? I doubt it. But hey, so let's move to the social integration and disintegration. Throughout the century, social engineering, especially integration, has led blacks to destroy their own group solidarity. Social integration reinforced the practice and destroyed black communities and sense of community. Increasingly, Blacks are viewing social integration in America as a failure. It is a form of tokenism. It has given Black Americans limited access to resources and institutions within mainstream society. It gave with one hand and took back with the other hand. Blacks now own and control less than they did in 1954 before the integration process began. Blacks gave up their own businesses, educational institutions, political leadership, culture, quasi communities. By comparison, nearly 90% of all the Asians, Arabs, and Hispanics in America immigrated within the last 30 years following the end of the Black civil rights movement and have economically surpassed Blacks. Now, Rella, I'm gonna stop right there. I don't know if you got a thought on that. I know you're out in traffic. Not sure if you're able to come up off the mic,
No,
but
I parked and I
what do you think
you know
about that?
this was a serious topic. You know, I think that's again going back to what's happening in Chicago. That's
Mm,
essentially the same. I think cookie cutter design that they're trying to use. If they can um, socially engineer segregation in the community, then they can essentially take over a community, especially Chicago being a stronghold for a lot of historical um, uh, wins that took
mhm,
place in Chicago, the birth of a lot of legends, and I think it being a hub for what it means to have a revolution. Chicago, if you look up a lot of the information of things that went on, is that place. So to break it up and actually bring people in to gentrify that area, social um, segregation, I
mhm,
think was another tactic that they used to break down our communities and our families
mhm.
for sure.
But what are your thoughts, Rella, on the fact that in the past 30 years we have all these at least three different ethnicities that have immigrated to America. They yes, they have superseded us in damn near every respect, maybe except for athletics. Um, but they've damn near superseded us in damn near every damn thing, and here we are still trying to get it figured out. And I guess we kind of talked about this in the episode last week, where it's that vertical integration that these new immigrants and these old immigrants have been. I mean, they're naturally inclined. I don't even think they even know that they're doing it. I don't even think they come to this country planning to do it. They come here and and that's all they can do is because they're all lumped into one place. They all work together, so they're going to automatically vertically integrate. Participate in vertical integration practices. Whereas
Yes.
we,
Okay. Now I see. Now I hear what you're
you
saying.
see what
Yes.
I'm saying? Yeah.
So yes, ma'am. And so I think too that goes under that whole "we are all white" umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Mm,
reason why I say that is because we assumed that it was only three ethnicities that actually came to this country, but it was actually multiple ones. And what they do is in order to collectively work together, even though they might not even like each other, for the benefit of displacing, I think, the descendants, they will make sure that they get into positions of majority authority, and
mm-hmm.
they will keep us from actually seeing those same benefits. That
Right.
also goes alongside the people who actually, someone like a Brandon Johnson, who
Right.
becomes a detriment because now we now give up representation by
Yes.
voting just by voting by sheer you look like me and we need you in office.
Right.
They actually vote for people that actually are willing to do
Hmm.
what they need to do, even if they don't share the same
Hmm.
racial, religious beliefs or background, but they might have the same complexion, but their agenda is we have to get power.
And you know what, too, Rella? To your point, not only do they have the same complexion, but they all have this a common goal because they all
Yes,
just got here. They all just got here. So here we are. it's swimming in our dysfunction that happened in the 1700s to the 1800s, as I just indicated in table 2 of this book, with the meritorious manumissions and the Willie Lynchism. That's what we're swimming around in. That's what we're in. Whereas these people are coming over here. Not only are they coming over here with like-mindedness of, hey, I'm here in America and I'm about to get it all. They also have that support for their group endeavor. So that's why they're in Chicago. They're getting that $9,000 a month, and they're getting the credit reports that are just show them to be stellar, and they're getting everything they need. And so again, they're grouped into a positive vibe that just takes them from here to where in the hell they're trying to get to, while we're still swimming in manumission. Lord, have mercy.
Yes, and you have to think about it too. Their dream, when you listen to them talk, they say we're coming for the American dream. You never hear us talk about the American dream being successful for us.
Well, we've never had it. We've never had it. Let me let's we've never had it the way it's been advertised. Some people have gotten pieces of it, but again, the best Black American, if he steps too long, he'll be conveniently reminded of where he come from. Okay, how about that? Let me see. I should have marked this where I stopped it, but let's see here. Was the surpass. Okay, so each group owns and controls more income, wealth, and businesses than 99% of Black Americans who have been in America for centuries. The civil rights movement and social integration opened the nation's doors of wealth and power to everyone except Black people. And, just a quick sidebar, again, if once in the past 50 years had a bank been accused of disenfranchising Black Americans by not giving them mortgages, I would say, okay, that had to have been an accident. These banks are doing this shit like clockwork. They're doing it like a whole formula. Okay? So this is some intentional stuff. It's all intentional. So the doors of wealth and power have been open to everybody except Black Americans. They are working in concert to ensure we don't get a chance to take advantage of any wealth building opportunities or American dream. Once a majority society consented to integrate Blacks, whites became a scorched earth policy, intentionally destroying large urban cities, abandoning them, and cannibalizing their industries, businesses, and other wealth-producing entities. They used the authority of urban renewal policies to drive expressways through the most prosperous Black business districts and communities throughout the nation. The majority society has forced Blacks to bear the burdens associated with the integration process. Whites frequently complain that Blacks are too race conscious. In fact, their inappropriate behavior patterns indicate that they have not been race conscious. When integration destroyed Black businesses, communities, Black consumers commuted to white suburban malls and started spending approximately 95% of their annual disposable income outside of their own communities. And I got to say this, we've gone out there and done that and been followed around in the store. Can I help you? Is it something you need? Is you buying it today? Not only are we not putting the resources back into our own community, we're going outside of our community and enriching another person's community and being disrespected while we're doing it. Now, I don't know where you're at. But right now, ain't nobody in the Twitter streets. It's just me, and this is what I think. So, Replay Gang, leave a comment. What do you think about that? And so, I mean,
I'm right here. And I listen. You are spot on. I mean, but when you look at what is happening, even with those businesses, and we get accosted and followed around, or even treated like less than underneath your shoe, while we're supporting and giving our hard-earned dollars to these particular communities and their businesses, they are what our local governments are allowing us to actually access in regard to our everyday lives. If a Starbucks or any other restaurants are in our community, and they don't allow any other mom and pop shops to still be around or allow you to actually develop a community that actually would provide goods and services for us to actually buy from. They're actually conditionally making it so that we have no other choice but to put money into the hands of other groups. They're doing
Absolutely.
it with our food. They're doing it with how we actually socialize on the level of dealing with how we buy and wear our clothes, where we buy and wear our clothes. Um, you don't see them giving black-owned American apparel companies and shoe companies access to plazas and areas where they can provide service. I think we had the discussion the other day, and someone brought up Nipsey Hussle's marathon
Hmm.
and how he was discriminated against. So he ended up having to buy the whole entire plaza,
Hmm.
right, to have ownership of the plaza. So when you look at stuff like that, that to me is an even greater impact on a commercial real estate level that we don't have our own majority authority over the land and the way we even want to do business.
Absolutely. 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 And you know what? And Black State of America brings this up a lot, about that place out there, and I can't remember the city. I think it might have been Minnesota, maybe, where the black man went in on a commercial spot right on the corner, was killing the game with the customers, great food, awesome reviews. The city came in and restructured the lanes and the traffic and the egress and ingress to the point where people could no longer just easily pull up and patronize this man's restaurant. The man took a hit, but he still stuck in there and worked it out. But like I said, we don't even have control in order to prevent that type of sabotage from impacting us. Let me do this real quick. Shout out One Pap. One Pap, what's up, girl? Thanks for pulling up. You're always welcome. I always appreciate it. You guys, I did put the link in the chat. So if you want to come up, hey, camera on, camera off, it's all right with me. Just pull up, contribute to the conversation. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, replay gang, leave a comment. You know I want to hear from you. Okay. And then Miss Trigger said that they destroyed our businesses and inserted others into our communities to get our black dollars. So you're absolutely right, Trigger. They put them in there to get our dollars, and if they're selling something we don't want, we got to go outside of our community because quiet as it's kept, they won't let us do what the hell we want to do. And if we venture out into their community, well, then we got, we got to deal with that. We got to deal with them turning a two-way street into a one-way street. How's that? Oh my God. Let me see. Trigger says, so then we either leave our communities to spend or spend with others in our communities who aren't us. Girl, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me keep on reading here, y'all. The link is in the chat. Go ahead. Feel free to jump up. You are invited to the stage to contribute to this conversation. Dr. Claude goes on to say black colleges were converted to miniature white colleges. Blacks seeking education, jobs, home, and leadership were forced to turn to the majority white society. And there was a conversation a couple days ago, I believe, last week or so, where we talked about a white HBCU that's in, I think it's West Virginia, and it's predominantly attended by white people because there's no dorms available. Considered as a commuter school because there are
It's
no
it's
dorms.
called it's called a white HBCU.
It's an HBC. It's an HBCU, and where it's located is in it's in a like a, you know how you can have like in an office park type of district. So the only thing around it are single family homes and things of that nature. But there are no dorms now. It's still an HBCU. It still has a HBCU status. Way back in the day, there was some I mean, we was up in there representing that. We had some drama going on up and through there. Okay, some high and tight racial drama occurred at that HBCU. But now years later, the HBCU still stands, but it's a predominantly white student institution where these students are able to just pull up to the bumper, go in, run in there, and go take the classes. Here's my thing: It's an HBCU. Every effort should be made to ensure that Black Americans are able to attend that HBCU, but it's not what's happening. I mean, so again, I don't even know why I jumped off on that tangent. I guess because Dr. Anderson is saying that, they Black seeking education jobs home were forced to turn to the majority white society. They took Black colleges and converted them to miniature white colleges. And I really would like to know why this school still gets the benefit of holding on to an HBCU status. That's what I'd like to know. What's in it?
But isn't that a form again of gentrification? So that way that they get the resources, and allotments that the federal government does divvy
Mm,
out to their community. So then that goes back to what we were discussing in regards to
yeah,
um, how when gentrification happens, they will allow a community to be so destitute
yeah,
and get so far down to the point where you can buy houses for $1. You
right,
can go in and you can buy up real estate property without spending a whole lot of money, and you now own this property, and then the property raises in value after you own it, because then the government will come back behind and say, okay, well, we're gonna help fortitude and help build this area up because now you own it and the Black Americans don't.
um, absolutely, absolutely. They're winning off of it. They're winning off of it, and I do agree with what you said, Rella, as far as as long as it's still an HBCU, it gets the benefit of those extra funds, and any other funds. I mean, so they're winning. They're winning bigly over there. This is a damn shame. Let me keep it moving. Integration has a built-in unofficial quota system of 5 to 8%, sometimes called the tipping point, to ensure that Blacks will always be a powerless, non-controlling minority in white community businesses, schools, and public offices. Once the Black percent reaches 5 to 8%, whites become fearful of losing their majority status and control over Blacks. They sell their homes, they move their businesses, and transfer their children to all white schools. Typically, a situation where whites are the majority and Blacks are the minority is described as racial balance. Mm. Social integration co opted Blacks into practicing individualism rather than group solidarity and group competitiveness. Individualism is the perfect ideological weapon to defend from group privilege that each generation of whites inherits over Blacks. Individualism gives what appears to be a reasonable explanation for Black underachievement. Further, it provides a responsive and neutral justification for opposing any compensatory or preferential treatment for Blacks while protecting the political and economic group interest of whites. Now, hold on, I got to read this over again. Um, because, and I'm sitting here looking at this Twitter space, and it showed I was live. I don't know. I don't know if anybody in the YouTube can go over to that spaces. I don't know what's going on. I just but I ain't gonna worry about Elon. Here it goes. Let's see. Okay, see, I can't get with Twitter. Maybe clowning. All right. But I need some understanding on this. So, um, and Rella, I don't know if any of what I read made any sense to you, but I'm trying to understand here.
I was waiting for you to actually go back over it again
Yeah.
because I was trying to wrap my mind around what was being said.
Yeah. So let me read this again. It goes, social integration co-opted Blacks into practicing individualism rather than group solidarity and group competitiveness. Now that makes sense to me. We do the social integration, and then we stop thinking about how we can work as a community because now we're receiving the approval, if you will, the benefits from the POW thing, and that extra blanket or that extra piece of candy, and that's making us feel, oh, they care about us. So shout out to Sir
Right.
Miguel in the
So
house.
that's the part I think, the social integration piece. So social engineering to me, I think also it gave us the ability to it took away our ability to realize what we needed socially in regards to our condition. and it gave us the illusion of inclusion,
Hmm.
so that way we felt comforted enough not to fight for our humanity.
Right now, let me interrupt you just a little bit here, Rella, and get to this piece here because Dr. Claud Anderson is getting into something here about this individualism and this group solidarity. So it's giving me what I'm getting out of it is the fact that the social integration says co-opted blacks into practicing individualism, which gave us our own individual pats on the back. Oh, hey, Rella, you're doing so great. Oh man, great. I'm so glad. You're not you're not like those other blacks. You're great.
Right,
You keep
right.
up the good
And
work.
it would ignore the pain inside of you. So like it's enough for me to say, okay, well I'm part of
I'm
the one
yeah,
percenters. You heard of
yeah,
the one
I'm model
percenters,
black.
right? But
Yes,
right, but I'm part of the 1%. But in that 1%, I'm not even what a decimal to the right,
girl, come on.
because I'm only probably one of many. But yet
Thank
here, my girl Mel and the rest of my community still are requiring repair, but they're giving me accolades and pats on the back and recognition. And
you. Exactly.
literally, individualism does not work.
Now, hold on, hold that point because he's getting ready to get into us more, and I'm glad you're up here to help me break this down, Rella. Thank God for you today, girl. Okay, so he says here that individualism is the perfect ideological weapon to defend the group privilege that each generation of whites inherits over blacks. Individualism is the perfect ideological weapon to defend the group privilege that each generation of whites inherits over blacks. Individualism gives what appears to be a reasonable explanation for black underachievement. Oh, so we can say if they only worked as hard as Rella, if they would take this job seriously, if they were more concerned about cutting split ends and doing, appraising the properties correctly, then they could be as successful as Rella. And all that's gas in your head up, Rella. And so you're like, oh yeah, I got it. And yeah, and I'm not even going to look at trying to get with them because they don't do it like I do it. So let me just stick on this individualism.
Why you Negroes complaining?
Mm.
You're lazy. All you gotta do is do what I did. Do
Come
you see
on.
how
Woo.
psychological? Do you
The
see the
boost. I said,
psychological warfare?
yes.
Do you
Whoa.
see the psychological?
Huh? Huh? Come on, wait, hold on. Let me keep reading because y'all know Dr. Claude Anderson. If anybody's in this chat and y'all want to come up on here and contribute to this conversation, you're welcome. Okay. Replay gang, leave a comment. I want to hear from you. Y'all be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Okay. If you haven't already, let me keep going here. Whites inherit over blacks. Individualism gives what appears to be a reasonable explanation for black underachievement. Further, it provides a responsive and neutral justification for opposing any compensatory or preferential treatment for blacks. So basically, and then while protecting the political and economic group interests of whites. So basically, it's like, well, Rella's not asking for $21 an hour. Rella's not asking for the opportunity to build a legacy and to build wealth. She's not asking for that. So why do you guys need it? Oh my God, y'all.
Why can't
By
you be
going,
thankful? Why can't you be thankful for the little that you got?
exactly.
Mm, mm,
By ignoring racism, individualism maintains the racial status quo. It argues the emancipation, integration, affirmative action, or even reparations for blacks are wrong because government would be called upon to support the rights of a group over the revered rights of individuals. Table 3, let's get to it while we at it. Let's see about it and speak about it. Okay, here goes table 3. That was an easy one to capture. Okay. Table 3 shows the placement of blacks in terms of group competitiveness and consciousness. While white Europeans, Americans, and blacks are individualistic, Asians, Middle Easterners, and Latinos practice groupism, stressing solidarity, working together for the common good of the family and community. So let's take a quick look at this table 3 categories. Strongly individualistic are I guess the folks from England, Great Britain, and other European nations, United States and Canada, Black America. Strongly group oriented, um, Japan, China, other Asian nations, Arab, Middle East nations, and Latin America Hispanics. Now, I'm not sure. Let me see. Let me read further to see if this is in order of significance. It says here, Table 3 shows that if any group is out of place, it's Black America at the bottom of column 1. Due to social conditioning, Black Americans view the concept of individualism through the eyes of European white society. This puts most Blacks at odds with their own group's interests. All the population groups in column 1 are considered white except Black Americans. Black America mistakenly placed a higher value on individual achievement and merit as opposed to group achievement. We surrender our competitive advantages to group oriented immigrants who enter and dominate Black business areas and outcompete Blacks for jobs and educational and social opportunities. Black America will continue to suffer a double loss, losing out to groups identified in both column 1 and column 2, as long as there is a gap between our ideology and the reality of our predicament. Our value is misplaced. We should not be in the individualistic column. We will remain outside and underneath the European white societies until we develop a coherent group orientation and identity. OMG. Rella, jump up off the mic. What you think?
Dr. Claud Anderson never ceases to amaze me. And he's the reason why, he's one of the biggest reasons why I became a collectivist, not an activist. Because I do believe a collectivist is someone who is able to actually, I think, look at our conditions, compartmentalize, and still be able to work towards the repair within our community while simultaneously keeping intact that there is several concerted efforts that keep us impacted on an individual level, and we discuss them and bring them, up as a means to move our repair further. I think he was on to something when he was saying that you can't stay in an individualism mindset, which is why people like a Nipsey Hussle or Colin Kaepernick and any other persons I think today are shunned because they have the ability to influence people on a larger scale collectively.
Well,
Kyrie Irving shunned because his platform is so large. He can reach masses of people to look at what's being done at them. And even though some people don't even like, Kanye West, but when you look at him and the access he has to influence people on a massive scale, again, that is a threat to their system.
So here, this is the question I have after reading this and hearing you speaking, Rella, is it seems like people like Kyrie Irving and others have to almost operate in an individualistic capacity to do well for others, but I don't see how even though they're operating individualistically, like Kyrie, here's $50,000 over here, here's $25,000 over here. That's him giving as an individual because he's not doing it as a group. The person he's giving it to, but as a result of his activities, it doesn't spawn group mindset, a group behavior. And what I'm also not seeing is others jumping and catching the wave like Kyrie of saying, Kyrie, if you're going to bring on a new guy, practically nobody, but has skill and talent and ability to do shoes, let me get with you and help you. So instead of bringing on one, let's bring on 5. That's not inspiring that group competitiveness. And so what do we do?
Well, see but that's where we're supposed to show up. I think other entertainers and other people who are afraid to come from behind the shadows, but they want to work in the shadows, they were supposed to galvanize behind Kyrie and influence the grassroots.
Yes.
He went and actually started looking for, I think, Black-owned shoe companies. that
Mm-hmm.
can make his tennis shoes, right?
Right.
And he decided to change up how he was going to utilize his funds and money that he was using to actually support different organizations and things like that. Other people were supposed to do the same thing. If you can't be out front on an island on your own, then I would say be a collectivist and make sure that the push is that the grassroots foundation gets gets the monetary gain that it needs to propel us forward. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you're worried about whoever you have contracts with or losing a contract, Kyrie Irving is to me an example of, even if you lose it, you still have the community to fall back on because we circulate the dollar.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And not only do we circulate the dollar, but in some respects we control that dollar where we can actually say, you know what, y'all don't got to go outside of your community and put the money in there. Y'all don't got to go outside of your community and work. I got the wherewithal to set you up so that you can do it in your community and grow from there. I mean, we just have so much work to do. Let me keep on moving with what Dr. Claude Anderson is saying. This man is just phenomenal. Hashtag protect Dr. Claude Anderson at all costs. Okay. Um, Dr. Claude goes on further to say when blacks act as individuals rather than as a group, it is easier for the majority society to control and manipulate them. It also brings comfort to whites because it lowers their fear of blacks as a group competitor. Blacks are further misled by our celebrity culture. In our celebrity culture, the status assigned to popular blacks gives the illusion that blacks are judged and accepted based on individual achievement rather than the acceptability of the group and community to which they cosmetically belong. Now, elements of functional communities, because Claude Anderson is about to get into that, he talks about now that we've identified some of the major menaces and impediments to building Black communities, let's begin to design the kind of communities that we want and need. These communities must be built to overcome all the previously mentioned destructive elements. In the following pages, we will present designs for physical and human communities that can reverse the effects of centuries of social conditioning. The first thing we must do is convert residential neighborhoods into functioning communities that contain three key elements or operating systems. First, they should have an independent economy that is wholly owned by residents of the community and provides consumer products, services, businesses, and employment opportunities. Because I know some people would love not to have to take the damn bus nowhere. Wouldn't mind
Okay?
walking, okay? Wouldn't mind walking a block or two, 3 blocks on a good day to go back and forth to work. Come on now. Second, they should have an active code of conduct and group accountability. Third, they should have a form of governance that collectively speaks for the residents and is capable of applying political pressure to the outside groups. Let's elaborate more fully on each of these elements. So, independent economy. Not one black neighborhood in America has a black business economy upon which its members can depend to supply its residents with their daily necessities, products, services, or jobs. Um, that's a problem. As stated earlier, the civil rights movement of the 1960s was destructive to urban communities, to urban black communities in many aspects. Black America would have been much better off had the movement equipped blacks to be their own job and product producers rather than seekers of jobs and products of others. If blacks had become production oriented rather than the consumption oriented, there is little likelihood that today there would have been a hidden national unemployment rate of 34% and live in neighborhoods rather than communities. Today, black neighborhoods are totally dependent upon whites and other competing groups to supply the products, services, and employment needs of black neighborhoods. What do you think about that,
That is
Robert?
not that, and that was by design because when you
Mm-hmm.
look at the Industrial Revolution era, we were actually the our ancestors were the carpenters. They were the steel workers. They were the people who were working in the mines. They also were they were in manufacturing companies and producing clothing. The cotton is king. They had these coming off the heels of slavery into Jim Crow. The slaves, I still call it the new slave labor, was to utilize our people in creating apparel. So, in the turn of the century for the industrialization, the United States said, "Oh, they have the ability to create their own nation because they knew everything. We knew how to farm, make clothes, create buildings, high rises, sky rise. Do you understand? And so what
In my
they were
library.
doing was we're going to send those contracts overseas to places like China and Indonesia and Thailand, and we're going to give these people exclusive rights to creating quick, fast, and hurry products, and then have them sell it back to us, and then we'll sell it back to our the people. But we have to take the ability for the Black Americans to be innovators in inventing and wanting to come back and ask the government, hey, we need you to pay us for our invention. It is not by happenstance that I think it's over 157 inventions in the United States and around the world that's being used today did not come out of the hands of the slave labor in America. And when you look at how we're not even awarded the royalties from those inventions to the families of the people who made the invention.
Right.
But we talk about it all the time during Black History Month.
Right.
So much so that it has become a topic on TikTok of how many inventions our ancestors created, and they did not get not an ounce.
And not only do they talk about it, but, and not only are they talking about it, but then there's no push to say, you know what, damn it, this is why we need
to
reparations.
Reparations, yes.
Yeah, they're not even pulling up on some, you know, here's the proof. Like, I don't owe you nothing. No, you don't. But your damn ancestors.
Listen, Linda. Do you know had the tables been turned and we had been talking about Holocaust survivors in the same breath and how many inventions that they created? I know. Show the mug, girl. I can't wait to get mine. Listen. all I'm saying is, if the tables were turned and we were talking about the repair that other groups are able to, the ones who came into this country, as we were talking about earlier, and how Dr. Claud Anderson talks about how they don't get to come into the country and struggle like they claim they do. They get to come into the country and say, we have needs, and we need this country to provide us with services. And what happens? Well, they get free housing. They get stipends and money.
Yeah.
They get to have free credit.
Wait a minute. Why is their history deemed so valuable and important? Because now what we're supposed to do is say, oh, you know, because this is the pushback we get. They just want a better life. They're just so now all of a sudden you want us to evaluate and classify their history and their trauma and their, you know,
for a better
life. You want us to assign all levels of value to it, and then all we're saying, look, give us some reparations for the hard knock life our ancestors went through, and you telling us forget about it, get over it.
And then talk about something we need to get used to other groups of people coming into this country. No, we do not. Because how is it that you recognize the humanity in the displacement of people in other countries, but you do not recognize the humanity and displacement that you have caused to your own people in the country that they live in?
Well, you've caused to the own people in the country that you lived in, and you've refused to give them any form. You won't even, girl, if they make $1 over the thing, help me, Lord. Wait, hold on. Let me slow down. If people make $1 over a contrived income level, which is, well, that's above poverty. Not much. Not much above poverty. But if I make $1 over that, I can't get none of this help. But yet here comes an immigrant and a migrant, and they're not even, here comes an illegal. Let's just be 100. Because right now, all of this is going on contrary to what our laws state about immigration. So here comes an illegal that gets to come in, they get it all. They get it all. All of a sudden, money's coming out the wazoo. It's just, let me keep reading. Let me keep reading. They doing too much. They doing too much. Okay. Code of conduct and group accountability. And can we do this, y'all, as Black Americans? Can we? Because we're dealing with trauma. This is part of our problem. If we could, I think we'd be doing it already. So this is why Dr. Claud Anderson has to talk to us and say, look, here's a code of conduct that the concept of it, you guys need to start executing and implementing. Code of conduct and group accountability. A code of conduct is a standard of behavior that outlines what is right and wrong within and outside of the community. It serves as a competitive tool that promotes group unity and accountability by suggesting either rewards or punishments for its members based upon how their acts help or hurt the members of the group. The burden for establishing and enforcing a code of conduct typically falls upon the shoulders of the community's basic institutions, the church, family, and school. And even now, we've got these church leaders. I'm using Chicago as an example. We got church leaders. Y'all just go ahead and let them hold on the hand and see. Hallelujah, y'all. Instead of really articulating a code of conduct that says, hey, city of Chicago, hey, other residents of Chicago, and even, hey, Black Americans of Chicago. These churches have an opportunity to call all involved parties together and actually produce some form of equity where, these cities that have been deemed sanctuary cities, there wouldn't be such an uprising in it right now. If you're going to pull money out of a hat, that you would be breaking off some of these Black Americans that's been asking you for it. So anyway, let me keep reading. A code of conduct does several things for the community. First, as a system or collection of rules, it prescribes and justifies how Blacks should think, see, and behave with other individuals and groups. These rules can be explicit or implicit, but either way, they act to govern individual behavior that affects a group. A Black code of conduct is necessary to keep out the destructive behavior that is so often evident in Black neighborhoods. Moreover, wealth and power can be built only where there is an enforceable code of conduct. A code of conduct defines inappropriate behavior and impedes it. It also rewards behaviors that uplift and strengthen the group. Any group that is characterized by self-hate, a lack of group self-interest, disorganization, and other social pathologies must implement a code of conduct in order to build an organized society and maintain an infrastructure that includes schools, healthcare systems, and other human services. And listen, any group, as he says, that has a lack of group self-interest, disorganization, and other social pathologies, that's us. That's Black Americans, y'all. And that's stemming all the way back from the brainwashing. Let me pull that graphic up here real quick. From the brainwashing that we have endured since the 1700s type of thing. So, with that being said, hold on, give me just a moment. Just a moment here. So anyway, let's keep reading. Rel, are you still there? Was there anything you want to comment on before I keep going? Oh, looks like Rella, looks like we lost Rella real quick. Okay, so Sir Miguel says, truth is we had those skills well before we came to America, even though some of us were already here. Absolutely, Sir Miguel, you're absolutely right. Let's see, let me keep going. Here's Rella.
Here, keep trying to kick me out. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Listen, girl, appreciate you coming back like you do. So, hallelujah. All right, so let's keep going here. Let me see. Once a code of conduct has been articulated, it should be adopted and communicated through schools, neighborhood organizations, churches, and families so that it reaches all of the residents. It must not only become a guide to appropriate behavior, but also a guide towards accountability and the development of penalties for inappropriate behavior. The code of conduct should be carefully taught to Black children so that each generation will know what is expected of it. Among other things, Black youth need to know how they should treat other members of their family and community, how to conduct themselves at school, in church, or in the community, and how to show respect for themselves, their property, and others, as well as the property of others. Yeah, that part right there goes without saying. And I think some of us do that, but we're not doing it on an entire national level. Because I think if it were people like Sexy Red in the Pound Town, that music wouldn't ever even made the chart. What's my girl's name? What's that girl's name? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Um, oh God, she was
So,
interested in Dr. Umar Johnson. Dr. Umar talking about, I like Sukiana.
Sukiana.
Sukiana. She
Mm-hmm.
she wouldn't have a career. A lot of these Natalie Nunn and that crap that she'd be doing, that stuff wouldn't even be acceptable. There would be no viewership for that if we were having these conversations now, and we're not having them. Hooey. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I believe Suki was the one that introduced Sexy Red, right?
I don't know because I can't.
Yeah,
I don't like to follow
that
a lot of
came.
pop culture,
She
but
came out.
Mhm.
Yeah, she came out. I believe she's the one that introduced her.
Mhm.
And I saw that, again, she pulled her off. I believe she was on Instagram, and Sukiana propped her up and gave her a platform. But again, imagine if we were in a position where we did that, but we did that on the levels that actually benefited our community, and
Right.
it wasn't benefiting degenerate behavior.
Right.
Where it's that we are condoning, where it looks like we're condoning um,
Right.
the
That
the
type of
product that
behavior.
they're trying to sell, like, because
Right.
they're selling a product.
Right.
They
Oh.
are selling a product. They're not selling family. They're not selling repair and reparations. They're not selling, the harms that come, for Black women. They're
Mhm.
selling something else. And our community requires repair. Black women require repair, and
Absolutely.
they're propped up by, again, another part of society that says ignore. And I think that was part of what Dr. Claud Anderson said. The
Mhm.
people who would be, if we were all prisoners of war, they would be the ones like, no, we just got to get along and go along, and they'll see our humanity.
Right.
They'll give us a piece of bread and some food and water.
Right. And then they only give you a piece of bread. So then I mean that's how it is. Then you have your individualism, and then if that doesn't work, then you take it away. And this, I mean, it's all a big mind buck. Okay, with a B,
Yes,
mind buck. Okay,
yes, because Sukiana was crying years ago when she was talking about being in that industry, and
mm,
how that she was being used and abused, and it was testing her spirit and all this other stuff. But
right.
then the moment she does whatever it is that the people who are pulling the purse string, she does what they want her to do. All of a sudden, all that went out the window. The
Well,
forgetfulness of harm
yeah.
goes out the window.
Well, and then somebody probably cut her a check. And the thing is that with what Dr. Claude said here about this code of conduct should be carefully taught to Black children so that each generation knows what's expected of it, showing, teaching them how to respect themselves and respect others. If that were already embedded, Sukiana and them wouldn't have had a chance. And here, let's move further into what he's talking about here. A code of conduct must effectively discourage Sambo behavior that was once known
Mm,
as Uncle Tomism. This kind of
mm,
behavior is extremely detrimental to community building. It is nearly impossible to eliminate because dominant society rushes to reward it. Samboism is a means of social control that extends all the way back to slavery. The majority society has always needed a few blacks who would sell out their race for their own personal gains. The practice of Samboism has continued for more than a century after slavery ended because there is still not a prescribed code of conduct that either forbids it or imposes consequences to those who engage in it as a means of selling out their race. And here's the thing, we might halfway attack it by calling somebody a Cancun, but we our voice over here is you Cancooning over there, bro. But then you got your boy Shannon Sharp. Don't at me, okay? Shannon Sharp, Stephen. What's my man's name? Stephen, whatever his name is. What's his
Stephen
name?
A. Smith.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Stephen A. Smith. They're getting paid the big bucks. They're given the big, large, heavily supported platform to be able
Mm-hmm.
to sambo their ass off. So how
Yeah.
we fight against that? You know, so they're getting rewarded and their voice is being echoed, their voice is being amplified And we damn near can't win for losing. So yeah, do we need to start at home? Because if we weren't watching Stephen A. Smith and them, or if more than just a handful of us was calling them Cancuns and things of that nature, we might do better. We might would have been
And
able to do
the
better.
influence of our viewership
Hmm.
allows them to continue the behavior that they're on, and it makes it so much so that they don't even change. Because remember when Stephen A. Smith said something about the white woman on ESPN,
Hmm.
they were getting ready to get rid of him. He
Yeah.
changed. His whole trajectory changed. His whole mindset came back on, so apologetic,
Hmm.
right? But then he says any and everything about athletes and people from our community, and it's supposed to be actually taken as, oh, he's just giving constructive criticism.
Yeah. Yeah, not the case. Not the case. Shout out to Shannon Lewis. Hey, good to see you, sir. Thanks for pulling up. Let's keep moving forward in here, y'all. We're almost done with this section. Um, Okay, so he goes further. He goes to practice symbolism. Let's see, for business consequences. Okay, the consequences of Samboism can vary from social sanctions to economic penalties. In some cities, Black activist community organizations post the pictures of Sambos on yard signs and billboards. Others publicly issue Sambo certificates and Hayward Shepherd Awards. Hayward Shepherd was a black man who was killed by John Brown's raiding party for trying to warn the town of Harpers Ferry, Virginia, that raiders were there to free the black slaves. The punishment for violating code and behavior standards must be sure and swift. It is important that every member of the community understands that the community will enforce the code and protect itself. And when I read this earlier, I thought about uh, uh, Tariq Nasheed, okay? Because there is a video on Twitter that was posted at least just within the past 6, 7 days, where I guess back in the day, Tariq went to some guy, I can't remember his name, um, went to some guy and was having a conversation with him. And before Tariq left that guy's, platform, he gave him he gave him a Coonan Award or something of that nature. And when I read that, I'm like, you know what? Should we be doing more of that, or do we need to revise that and improve that and do it on a larger scale? Do we even have anything like that in place now that we could really, other than what we did with Shannon Sharp and Stephen A. Smith when Kyrie was going through it, and they neither one of them would stood up for Kyrie. Matter of fact, they dogged him even more. Other than us getting to him on social media, is there a larger way that we're letting people know this is Cancunism? This is unacceptable behavior from the Shannon Sharps and the Stephen A. Smiths. What do you think about that, Rella? Is there a way we can improvise and reinvigorate
I
that?
think I think so. I think there is a way, and I think this is one of the ways. Supporting people like you and others who are developing platforms to bring note of you know off code or um,
Inappropriate behavior.
bojang right inappropriate bojangle behavior
Hmm.
that that will not be tolerated in our communities. We will no longer support you if this is how you are going to carry yourself and represent our community, and you no longer can have a willing disobedience to destroy our image even further.
Mm.
Consequences should also follow.
And not only destroy our who we are and what we look like and our image and what we stand for, but to reinforce that negative stereotype as though that
Stereotype.
is par for the course, when in fact it's not.
Hmm.
And I mean, I wish that there were larger platforms where we could say, hey, that one over there don't speak for us. That's not we don't Sukiana don't speak for us. We don't get down like that. That's not how we do. It's not how we
I,
doing
I
it.
think I think that the attack on Kyrie wouldn't have been as vicious had, again, the surrounding community of people who have larger platforms would
Absolutely.
have shut down the narrative of him having his own autonomy and ability to actually practice, love for his community in the way he wants to, right?
Right.
And that be protected. he didn't have that. I think Amari Stoudemire
Mm-hmm.
tried to
Mm-hmm.
step up, and I think there was another basketball player that tried to step up and speak on his behalf.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember his name, but that was only a few. It
Right.
wasn't a larger number. You know, there's something to the Black Majority State Initiative that also should actually extend into other areas in our society,
Mm-hmm.
in regards to the majority practice of collectivism and protection.
Well, you know what, Rella, to your point there is if someone like LeBron James or any other bigger player, and whether it's basketball or not, um, had they come up and just used their voice, use their inside voice,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
supported what Kyrie was doing and defended Kyrie, things would have taken a different way. Let me take this moment real quick to shout out Miss Eva Johnson. Thanks for pulling up, Miss Eva Johnson. You guys be sure, this is a great spot to just say it. Hey, thanks for pulling up. Be sure to like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. Replay gang, leave a comment. I want to hear from you. If we had that a voice to support and lead in how what Kyrie did and how what anybody else does moving forward, how Sukiana moves. If we had main voices, major players, that would help us out so much. Where that would do a lot of the heavy lifting. Ms. Trigger says none of our so-called legacy agencies stepped up and said anything either. That's what I'm talking
no,
about, Trigger.
no. They actually put out a letter. I think the NAACP put out a letter against anti-Semitism.
Right,
They
but
took the
again,
route of excuse me. They took the route of
see no
we
evil,
stand
hear no
against.
evil, speak no evil.
Exactly.
That's
And that invigorated the ADL to
mm,
further, do our damage,
mm,
in that situation. And then that goes back to, again, if we are going to sit around and allow other people to contribute to our harm while we're being harmed,
mhm,
we are in trouble. And so I do believe that even with the whole situation with Nat Turner,
mhm,
had there not been a willingness for other blacks who were afraid to be freed
mhm.
in the way that Nat Turner was actually moving the revolution, we
Right.
probably would have gotten further, but we didn't, because you had people who were willing to say, "Oh well, Massa,
Mm,
Massa, they're
mhm.
getting ready to pull a coup."
Yeah. Well, like I said, out of the 297 of them, I don't. Let me get this part. Let me get this part right here. A code of conduct will be necessary to communicate new team standards, and that's what we talking about. New team standards. We about to do things differently. Some blacks have behaved in their individual self-interest when they perceive disorganization, self-destructive behavior, and mixed signals among blacks to mean that there was no functioning skin color team. Those who chose to change their behavior to re-identify with the team and to take part in helping the group achieve self-sufficiency and competitiveness will need a code of conduct as a guide to new behaviors. It can show those who have a position and celebrity status in sports, entertainment, corporate America, or in government how to benefit and strengthen the group. And, I'm going to say this. That's why communication is so key. And that is something we were talking about in your space earlier today, Rella. But that's why communication is so key, so that you won't be misunderstood. So that if I think I'm not clear on what you're talking about, the playing field is leveled to such an extent that I, one, feel comfortable enough to come to you and say, hey, you know what? Can you explain that? Because I don't know. Could you reread that again? Because I don't know if I quite understand. Is this what you mean? So we bear that responsibility. And as long as we're being so well communicative, then there's no excuse for anyone violating or not being in compliance with the code of behavior. So what I want to do real quick, and Rella, feel free to jump in. What I want to do real quick, I just want to briefly just reassess what we went over in chapter 3. We talked about the meritorious manumission versus the brainwashing. the meritorious manumission, aka Willie Lynchism, that happened between 1710 and 1860s, conducted by people with a third grade education. Okay, and that was applied primarily to slaves. And then the communist POW brainwashing time period from 1950 to 1954, 1950 to 1954, conducted by people with educational levels of at least a master's degree. Either way, the outcome of both brainwashing, prisoner of war brainwashing, and the notorious manumission, Willie Lynchism, divided. It made people no longer have a group view. It made the recipients of these techniques, if you will, see themselves through the eyes of the individuals conducting the brainwashing type techniques. One thing Dr. Claud Anderson did state clearly is that after the 1954, POWs were able to go to a hospital, be decontrolled, if you will, or, I forgot what they call it, but they got to get their mind right. Let's put it like that, and live happily ever after. As far as the meritorious manumission and the Willie Lynchism, once we got free, they ain't did nothing for us. We still out here trying to make $1 out of 15 cents. And even in spite of that, we produced products and goods and Black Wall Streets. And in spite of not being, having our trauma addressed, having our significant trauma addressed, we still excelled. And we're still in the same damn boat. Really, you had came up off the mic, and I think you were going to say something.
Yeah,
What's up, girl?
I was going to say, even with all of the accolades and the great things, I think our people I'm amazed all the time at how we are able to just keep rising like the phoenix. That we are demonized for doing so. We are demonized for getting an education or furthering our education. We're demonized for wanting to be able to access lending for getting into economics, like buying a home or buying a vehicle, or just, trying to live day-to-day lives. We're demonized for wanting to start a business and our community pouring into our business as they should, even if there are other groups of people. We are demonized for not showing up and looking like the Asian community, that model minority. We're demonized for not doing what white women did, lying, killing, and destroying. We are demonized for wanting protection,
right,
even within our own community, in our own country, providing those protections. We are demonized. And so when you look at how the destruction of not getting what the POWs were able to get, we are demonized for even having mental illnesses that do become a health crisis. And then when turning around, demanding that the medical community stop actually discriminating against us, and in allowing and killing us, murdering us, even so much so that they practice that particular type of behavior that the police department also picks up and decides, well, if you don't want a police officer to help you, why call the police? Or a house on fire. Well, we ain't gonna go to the house and put the fire out if they don't recognize, Blue Lives Matter. You understand what I'm saying? That psychological warfare.
Well, I mean, and that mindset is already in place. So when the call does come in, they say, "Hey, man, cut me another slice of that cake, and if the problem still exists when I'm done, then we'll go." Oh yeah. Let me shout out one Pap, because Pap, you said it all, girl. We are easily brought off. We will be on a continuous of voting people in and out to keep integrity from this individualism of code of conduct. We are. And that is that, and you're right. And that's going to be the thing that makes people stick to the individualism piece, because that POW person, or that manumission person running that mind trick is giving them a blanket, or giving them a piece of cake, or making them feel like, oh, well, they care about me, so I got mine.
It's not an immediate. right. It's not an immediate impact. It's not.
Hmm.
It hasn't really fully impacted me yet. It's just them. It's them over there. It's not
Right.
really. I don't know why it is that
Right.
that they're complaining because I was able to pull myself up.
Hmm. And Shannon Lewis, shout out Shannon Lewis, said the black boule is a major problem as well. And you're absolutely right because they
Yeah.
got a voice and resources and refuse to use it. They got a
Not
voice
just
and resources.
not just the
Mm,
black boule and the willful ignorant are the
mm,
problem
wee,
because you're
wee,
choosing.
mm,
Listen, two things can exist at the same time.
mm,
You can have the black boule that will ignore the condition, and you
mhm.
can have the willful ignorant that will say, it was so and so that did it. No, we need to actually point out who so and so is.
Hmm.
Well, I don't need to point out who so and so is because I know I'm in this condition. Well, if you're not trying to identify the people who are actually putting you in your condition,
Right,
you are no different than the boule.
right. Absolutely. Well, listen, I want to thank everybody for pulling up. I also want to let me send a special shout out to John Lindsay Green. John Lindsay, I want you to turn that notification bell on because I was hoping that we were going to see you over here in this live today. Okay, because brother, you've been making some statements on the previous. I mean, you replay gang for real. If I was giving out a replay gang award, you'd be it, brother, because you is leaving comments like a mug and making great sense. And I was hoping that we were going to be able to have you as somebody on this panel this afternoon as well. Rella, I need to thank you so very, very, very much for coming up in here and having this conversation. Shout out to everybody, Miss Trigger, uh, One Pap, girl, you know we love you, girl. Black State of America, Sir Miguel, DJ Sagwan, PowerNomics, y'all.
Hey, Mel,
Yes, ma'am.
before you actually get going to the
Hmm.
benediction, I want to tell you, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. And I tell you, you have a piece of my heart.
Oh,
Um, you took that thing and you ran with it, even in spite of trials and tribulations, and it's so inspiring to me. Um, because we need more of that push, and we need to see what that looks like. And I think people don't know you like I know you in Trigger, and I
yeah.
want people to understand how much so you are like a glue that needs to be in every crevice,
Wow.
every home, every corner of this atmosphere for people to amplify what is going on with us. And so I just want to give you your sunflowers and your
Wow.
love and your accolades because it's not just us, it's you. And we are truly, truly proud of you. We cannot see more of what you're going to do for us in this space.
Wow. You know what? Thanks, Rella. Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. And it's so, I mean, I appreciate that a lot. Trigger, I see you over here, girl. Thank you. But I got to say this to you, Rella. You know what? You deserve flowers too. So, I mean, I can take these flowers and I guess on the next show I'll give you yours. But you're awesome people too. And I think that's where it all comes together at. So, um, thank you. Thank you for those kind words. Thank you for pulling up today and really thank everybody for coming to this episode. Y'all, if you haven't subscribed, please do. Share the show. Um, hit the like button and let's keep this in the algorithm to get this conversation out because I think we can do it. I think there's a way we can get this thing together and at least be better. If we do end up getting into a jam as a at least we'll be at least we'll practice group group uh, behavior. Okay.
Economics, yes.
Yeah, group economics
Protection and
and group
protection,
behaviors.
yes.
Yeah, so if they do try to pull all these fighting age mid aged illegals and all of a sudden they trying to put us all on a train and send us to a camp, we'll be operating as a group. We might can whoop that ass, okay, if it come down to it, because I know I'm fighting. All right, I'm gonna fight. You ain't gonna sit here, you ain't putting me on no damn train. We ain't doing that. So we gonna fight, and it'd be better if we fight as a group than try to fight individually, because then what?
That's
You know what
right.
I'm saying? Come
That's
on.
right.
So with that being said, y'all, we'll be back. That's it. That is the podcast. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, or replay gang. Leave a comment. You know I want to hear from you. And until next time, y'all, we will see ya when we see you. Welcome to the Only Male Cruz Show, the We Own Your Head podcast. Discussing topics that make you say, how and where can we improve as a society? From a Black American's perspective. Copyright disclaimer regarding fair use is in full effect. The views and opinions expressed in this show, you guessed it, they're all mine. Catch us live, be ready to speak. This is a call-in show. Be sure to hit the like button, share, subscribe, replay gang, leave a comment. You know I want to hear from you. Let's go to work.